Welcome to the Financial Advisor Success Podcast, where you go behind the scenes with financial planner, speaker, and consultant Michael Kitces to hear stories of how leading financial advisors navigated the inevitable challenges that arise on the path to success, and get insight from leading industry consultants about how to break through to the next level in your advisory business. And now here's your host, Michael Kitces.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the 427th episode of the Financial Advisor Success Podcast. My guest on today's podcast is Sten Morgan. Sten is the owner of Legacy Investment Planning, a hybrid advisory firm based in Franklin, Tennessee that oversees $220 million in assets under management for 90 client households. What's unique about Sten, though, is how he realized that the team that helped his firm reach an initial level of success as $1 million+ practice was not the team he'd need to take it to the next level, and ultimately found that he had to turn over 100% of his original team, led by a new director of operations, who eventually restaffed the entire firm in order to rebuild the team for the next stage of growth. In this episode, we talk in depth about how Sten recognized that while his firm appeared to be performing well in terms of AUM and revenue and other business metrics, its culture was not resulting in the collective skill set and team member initiative needed to reach the growth goals. How Sten handled difficult conversations with team members to find the best resolution for both them and for the firm, which quickly brought his firm's headcount down from 8 to 4. And why Sten decided to hire a new full-time director of operations to serve as an integrator and make even more changes to get both staffing and day-to-day firm operations back on track. We also talk about how Sten and his operations director implemented a new 5-step process for hiring, which includes a resume review and screening call, an asynchronous video interview using the JobVite platform, an in-person interview, a work assignment, and then finally a team debrief to select the candidate. Why Sten now waits to interview at least 4 to 6 candidates for a position before making any offers to ensure his firm doesn't settle too quickly for just the first candidate that appears to be qualified. And Sten's best practices for using recruiting firms to support the hiring process, including the need to get guarantees from the firm in case the hire doesn't work out. And be certain to listen to the end, where Sten shares why his firm is currently focused on hiring and maximizing internal operational efficiency before going through its next growth phase. Why Sten recommends that firms try to be more proactive in hiring, for example, by hiring today for a position that's going to be needed 6 months from now, rather than waiting to hit the capacity ceiling to do so. And the process that Sten uses to iterate on his own creative business ideas, taking the time to think through ideas both in his mind and with the help of outside input, to ensure that they are well vetted before taking action, so he doesn't try to implement too many different ideas at once and instead focuses into the few that will matter most. And so with that introduction, I hope you enjoy this episode of the Financial Advisor Success Podcast with Sten Morgan. Welcome, Sten Morgan, to the Financial Advisor Success Podcast.
Michael, man, good to see you again. It's been 4 years since we recorded. I looked it up. It's wild.
It has been 4 years, almost exactly. And much of the theme around that discussion was, growth and really like gaining growth momentum, how to really position our value for this like ephemeral financial planning thing that's really hard and difficult to explain. What is financial planning? What is the value that a client's going to get? How do you quantify what that value is to show that your value is worth the fees that you're going to charge? And you were on this great growth path for the firm, and to me, one of the fascinating things about the advisory business overall is most of us, the way we're taught to scale the business is essentially to scale ourselves. Spend all your time on the highest and best use, delegate the rest of the tasks down. So we hire administrative staff so we don't have to do the paperwork, digital paperwork, the scheduling, the tasky things for clients. And maybe we hire an associate advisor so we don't have to do as much of the plan construction, the plan preparation, and we hire someone on investments to handle the trading tasks and someone maybe to help us out with marketing. And we start kind of building these teams around us to leverage ourselves up. I almost think of it like the doctor model. The very successful doctors have 3, 4, 5 different nurse and administrative support team around them to make sure that all their time is as optimized as possible to be patient facing. But there are limits to it. Like you can still only get so much like maximally personally leveraged productivity out of yourself before you just hit some, I was going to say some wall. I guess the better analogy is like some ceiling as we're leveraging up, where it just can't get any further if you don't do something much more substantively different. It's a version of the old was, I think, Drucker's what got you here won't get you there. And I know you've lived some of this, Sten. You joined us previously in this like fast growth firm. So now we've had several more years of ongoing fast growth and the kinds of challenges or ceilings that can introduce. So I'm excited to talk about like what happens when you keep growing fast and then you start smacking into some walls and ceilings.
Yeah, I think step one is the humility to even say you have limits. So if we would have recorded this 3 years ago, I might not have told you that, but now I fully embrace that I have capacity issues, limitations as a leader, and all these things that the path of kind of getting beat up has kind of had to reveal that in me to where as a business owner now I can say I will not defend my inability to do everything perfectly. There's some things I can do really well, but for the gaps, to your point, both of my businesses have hit a point to where if it relies fully on Sten and support staff to support Sten, we're done. Like we hit a ceiling to some degree, but there's more impact that can be made. So it's what's the next higher quality problem to solve, and to me it's a talent thing.
Well, and it's interesting to me how it's played out, for folks who actually want to go back and listen, Sten's prior episode was episode 210, kitsis.com/210. And it really is a cool episode around how to explain your value, how to position your value, how to like show it and talk about it in client meetings and prospect meetings to help get them on board. But at the time, you were, I think, like closing in on 2 million of revenue, 200 plus clients. It was you plus three team. There were four of you in total, which is a pretty darn lean, efficient, like high productivity practice. So I guess first and foremost, just wondering, like, help us start to play out, like what's happened over the past few years as you continued that growth trajectory.
So to me, it reignited my passion for the industry when I finally convinced myself that I was able to get paid for my time and ideas. So I grew up in the insurance world to start, and then I jumped to the AUM at all cost world. And in both worlds, I really didn't talk about anything but the thing I had to sell. And so when I was introduced to, hey, there's actually a third pillar you're missing, where people will pay you just to advise them and not sell them anything. And so as I stumbled down that path and tried to say, well, how do I do this? And I undercharged a lot, and I was really inefficient with delivering plans. And so EAN and a lot of the stuff I talk about today, if you're listening and you're driving, we're going to put it up on gobeelite.com. So just go there, find any resources, tools we have. We'll just give it to you guys. But I feel like I'm blazing this path kind of on my own. So I was kind of getting punched a lot. But I was committed to.
In what way? I mean, you were running a 2 million revenue practice with three team and 200 plus clients. So by most standards, like that's a pretty darn amazing,
Yeah.
good metrics business in and of itself. So like, where were the challenges and punches coming for you in practice? Like what was going on that we can't see in those numbers?
That's fair. Yeah. I think there's a version of that where people might be listening and be like, you did it. Like, just hang out, put your feet up. There's something in me that that wants to find a better path. There's kind of the average path. You build a practice that makes you great income, and once you get there, then you just kind of let it coast. And I think that's fine to some degree. But I was, in my early 30s, like still kind of hungry as an entrepreneur to say what's next. And so build this AUM practice, make more money than I ever thought I could, and then I introduce a new business essentially within my business that requires new systems, a new way of prospecting. And when you do something like that, you kind of shake up the team and you shake up your business to where you're really saying, I'm taking this thing that has gotten to some level of streamline and I'm going to break it on purpose.
And that shift was going from AUM to alternative fee models. What was the
It was
shake-up?
introducing financial planning, and my first financial plan was $1,500 for a 12-month engagement.
Okay.
And I still laugh because if when I gave that proposal to these two they were lawyers and they were making like $350,000 combined, and I swore they were going to tell me no. So the head trash of Sten growing up in the business was like, you're not worth the money. The product is the thing, but your knowledge and your time you got to give that away for free.
It's just me. Who would really pay me like $1,500 for the things just in my head that I'd like talk? If they give me money for that?
Yeah. And then how
Couldn't
do I
happen.
present that thing? What's my onboarding paperwork? What's the actual deliverable I give them at this point? Because I've never had to do that before. I've kind of sprinkled free financial planning on while I've managed the money, but I say, because you're paying me the AUM fee, I'm going to give you this stuff for free. And that was hardwired into me. I had to kind of break that in myself to say, hey, maybe there's a different way. And then the head trash is, well, wait, does that mean I've been doing it wrong the whole time? And so there's this period of wrestling, and your team feels that. If your leader is semi midlife crisis of career of like, maybe there's a different way to do this. Maybe I can actually get paid really well for my time and ideas. So I had to start restructuring the team to support this new product. And what's great about financial planning is we learned we were getting paid for the thing we were giving away for free, which was our time and ideas. We had to build a system to kind of formalize it and give them a deliverable with action items. But then we got more AUM, and we got more insurance deals that were large insurance deals that we wanted to help clients with. And so it was going really, really well. And the challenge became the team was starting to get overwhelmed. And so I was like, okay, we need more team members. But as our revenue got to 2.5, 3 million, and we were making high six figures of consulting, financial planning revenue, our AUM is growing. The current model started breaking down, and the team members that were once able to handle a certain level of responsibility and work started getting frustrated, and the culture started falling apart, and it started like breaking in front of my eyes.
So what were you, as you grew from 2 million of revenue to 3 million of revenue, were you expanding team at this point? Was it still the four of you, the 3 plus Sten, or were you at least trying to add seats and it just wasn't working?
We grew to where we had a team of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we were probably about 8 people at this point, with some junior advisors, a paraplanner, portfolio manager, support staff, and then my director of ops. And so the team grew. I felt like if I put it on a whiteboard, I was like, this is a good team structure. Like this feels like we should be able to handle what we're trying to go after.
Okay.
That what I had to then admit to myself, and this was hard because you get to know these people and you spend a lot of time with these people, is there a chance these people are not capable of going there with me? And I fought that. I'm a loyal person, but the idea, and you mentioned earlier, like that what got you where you're going will not get you there. To me, my mind went to like processes and systems and tools. I fought really hard that it was the people, because of what that was going to mean as far as difficult conversations and finding new people and training them up. Like that was something I was trying to avoid at all cost.
I think there's an interesting reflection there that, I didn't want to have to deal with the fear, the prospect of letting people go, with all the loyalty implications of hiring new people and training new people and all the stuff that goes with that. And so the response was, maybe I need different systems, maybe I need different processes, maybe I need different tools. Like there's a meaningful nugget there to me, because I've seen that, I've witnessed that for a lot of businesses over the years, that maybe we can just find a new piece of tech that'll make us a little more efficient, and then it'll work, because we don't really want to have to stare down the possibility that it's a people problem, not a tech or a system or a process problem.
Yeah. And there's some healthy shame that comes with that, because I'm the one that hired them and I'm the one that trained them. But now I know more, and I've changed, so it's like every company has to hold space for everyone to change and grow. And that means you're going to learn stuff, and you will always look back and say, if I only would have known, I would have done this different. And that's just probably true in life, relationships, business. Like we're always, hey man, somebody tried to tell me that when I was 25 and I tuned them out and didn't listen at all. I wish I would have. But I think we can try to limit that. And so as I go through these cycles, and I know we've talked in the past, I'm like, I bet Michael's been there. Like I bet now that I'm at a place of more humility, if I call him and I'm like, man, just tell me what you did here, I do not have to take every punch right on the nose if I'm willing to kind of be curious and humble. But the one that hit me in the face right now was 100% turnover of my financial advisory practice. which is, if you would ask me 5-6 years ago, no, there's somebody that's going to be here for the next 40 years. Like, I bet I'm loyal, they're loyal. And so to come out the other side of it and say, I have to completely rebuild this thing while owning my part in whatever caused it to get to a place of not working or scaling like I wanted it to, which is my skill level of attracting talent, hiring talent. Like, now there's a skill set that I was good enough for a while, but I'm realizing, man, to take this thing from, 3 million to 6 million, it's a different type of person that has to be on the team.
So I want to get further into this in a moment, but before I do, I want to make sure it's like I'm really clear on just where the business was in the state of affairs when you're having this, like, it's not working, I think I'm going to have to blow some things up kind of feeling. So you're 3 million of revenue, you're 8 people on the team at that point.
Yeah, but it was built with a kind of a junior advisor, a paraplanner. At a point, I had another kind of senior producing advisor in here. But what I didn't do was create a consistent culture that said everyone that works here is required to work hard. But if I have an advisor that joins the team that's like, hey, I'm making enough personal income for myself, so I'm going to show up to team meetings late and not really care about the company. And I wasn't clear about, hey, there's a standard of you actually have to add new clients and grow. So my lack of experience in this, or anticipating people's tendencies, is I ended up with a bunch of people that were like, hey, I'm pretty comfortable. Sten, you go do your thing. Let me know if you need my help. And then I become the sole problem solver.
Okay.
And everyone's, team meetings where people sitting there looking at Sten being like, what do you want us to do? And I'm like, no, I need you guys to tell me what problems are happening. And I need you to come with 3 solutions because I'm hitting my capacity. And then throw into that, my personal world kind of takes a huge turn and kind of falls apart while I'm trying to show up at work. And so all of a sudden, when the team is getting less of Sten, these gaps reveal themselves. And I'm like, oh no, unless they're getting 100% of me every day in a healthy way, this thing's not working. And I take credit for some of that I didn't hold people accountable, or I didn't hire them right with clear expectations. But those roles, I started almost looking at each role individually. If it was like my director of ops, we transitioned to the Schwab platform. That fell apart. We missed billing for like 4 months on our accounts and lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I was like, that's a miss. Like, what happened there? Or it was my junior advisor that wanted to be an advisor, but he was unwilling to prospect. And he'd say, I'm not going to prospect. I just need you to give me clients. I'm like, well, I can kind of do that, but you also need to prospect. And so it was almost like role by role revealed that the people were kind of willing to be average in their role, but not be elite, and didn't want to be pushed. And so I feel it as I talk about it, that it almost felt like one at a time, they just fell apart in front of my face, until the point where I'm like, man, I'm left. There's 4 of us. And it was kind of a cleansing and a restart, but in the moment it was like I failed. Like, this thing, the thing I spent 8-9 years building, that I thought I had arrived, and I'm the guy that's on podcasts. I'm the guy writing books on this stuff, and this thing is just falling apart in front of me.
So this is helping to kind of clarify. So you get scenarios like, okay, we transition to Schwab, we got to figure out the new billing structure, like how to execute on their platform. My director of ops can't seem to actually figure it out. And so if I, Sten, don't get in there and figure it out for them, we're just not going to have billing happen. And since you had too many other things going on for other parts of the business, you couldn't get in there, and then a whole bunch of billing doesn't happen and revenue doesn't come in. So, like, it's scenarios like that across the firm. I'm inferring that means all of a sudden things just aren't getting figured out and solved if Sten can't come in and literally personally solve them.
That's right. And there's a point in that where, I've gone through days where I've kind of lost faith. I'm like, maybe these people don't exist, and I talk to some peers and I'm like, okay, they do exist. Like, I need to do my part. I need to level up. There's times where when I hire people, I ask them in a meeting, I draw a circle on the whiteboard and I'm like, if this it represents 100% of what is necessary for you to thrive in your role, what percentage of responsibility do you hold? And what percentage of responsibility do I hold as the business owner? And the hope is whatever percentage they come up with and tell you is it's mostly them. Like, I'm here to help you succeed, but if you're relying on me for your success, but you're not going to come ask me for help, and like somehow I have to chase you down and kind of force you to do the things to be successful, like, I don't have the energy for that. Like, and most likely I will always get it wrong. Like, I need you to drive the success of your role, the curiosity to get better. And that is a type of person. I think some of that can be trained if you have a good culture and a good system. But as soon as you realize that someone is not willing to do that, they can't stay on the team for another year or two. You have to have the hard conversations as quick as possible, because part of that is you defending the culture for everybody else. You think you're being nice to that one person, but everyone else is suffering to some degree by doing that.
So when you said like suddenly staff starts winnowing down and you're down to 4 of you, so help me understand what's playing out there. Are you having hard conversations and letting people go? Are you having hard conversations and people are saying, maybe I don't want to work here after all? Are they just some people just quitting because they're not enjoying work at this point because hard things are happening and it's not going well? Like how did actual headcount start winnowing in practice?
I think I had one in every one of those ones you just said.
Okay.
I think there was some that I started applying a healthy pressure to. Hey, by this next Friday, I need to have this thing from you, like some accountability. And they kind of crumbled under that and kind of, emotionally kind of rejected it and got frustrated with that. And so the healthy accountability kind of weeded some of those people out. Some were some other advisors that were really content with their personal income, and they were taking up a nice office space and didn't want to really be part of a company. They're kind of a lone wolf. And so I went to them and I said, hey, here's what's about to change. You're going to be held accountable. We're going to have metrics. Is that something you're going to get on board with? And if two of them said no. And so I said, here, we're going to figure out a way for you to transition your book out. And so where we stand today is we have a little more AUM than we had in the past, but we have like 90 households. And so we're even more of an efficient practice because we've kind of weeded some stuff out. And then some of those were just really direct, hard conversations of like, we've talked about this. This isn't working. I think, we need to find a better place for you to go where you can thrive because you're not thriving here. So it was a combination of all of that losing one person is challenging. If this starts happening all at once, it is a feeling as an entrepreneur and a business owner of like, should I even be allowed to do this? Where am I missing? And I think for me, as I coach other advisors and work with other business owners, I'm like, part of it is like, I just want to normalize the challenge of this. That I got spoken into. It's like, Sten, this doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It's the good to great principle. It's like, this is a good sign. You hit a plateau, but a plateau means it's you're on your way to your next plateau. Like, grow to the next place. It's not a sign you're doing something wrong necessarily.
So I'm presuming like you're taking client hits, you're taking revenue hits as this is going, because if advisors have to part ways that were under the firm and the umbrella, now like revenue and profitability is walking out the door as well. Like were you actually facing going backwards on some of this?
Yeah, there was a season of that. And at one point at our peak, we had 50 active financial planning consulting clients. Purely as a function of capacity, that dropped to 25. And that's revenue of upper six figures. I think at one point, 750,000 in our best year of financial planning fees alone, down to maybe 400, 500, which is still a great, healthy revenue stream. But to me as a business owner, and it's like, it's so hard when I know the opportunity is sitting there for the taking and people want us to help, but I cannot deliver it because I need people. And that's still where we are. I'm looking to hire 2 junior advisors to come in and be like, dude, link arms with me and let's get to work. Like, I'm going to do it better this time. But the capacity is the thing where it's like, I have limitations, and the people are going to be the only thing that take this to the next level, because the opportunity isn't the question. It's there for the taking. It's, can I build a business with a culture and find the right people to take advantage of it? And going through this, I have a newfound respect for people that build good organizations. They may not communicate as well as me. They may not sell as well as me, but like, if you're an advisor that just gets people around you and motivates people well, like that is a superpower for the advisor that wants to be a business owner.
So what happened next as you're going down this path? You're growing, but it's not working great. So you say, okay, I got to start. They're not trying to solve their own problems. They're not trying to grow the way I want to grow. So I'm going to start holding them accountable. So you do, and then like half of them nope out the door. So what happens next?
To me, I realized at the time that the integrator had to be the next hire. I needed an A-level integrator, because I'm still managing a book of business at this point. Like, I'm the deliverer of our product, which is advice and financial planning. Like, I'm pretty tied up, especially a couple times a year. And so I went out and found April, who joined the team. And I'm like, okay, 19 years of investment industry experience. She's got a fire on her. Like, she's going to come, she's ready. I'm honest about where we are and where we want to go. And she's like, I can do this. Let's go. So she was the first step in saying, okay, let's rebuild this healthier. And again, by many standards, we were successful. There's so many people that were like, Sten, you did it. You're 30. Now what? But I'm like, no, I think there's another season, another chapter for legacy, but I have to have somebody next to me. And I know you have these people where it's like, without them, this doesn't get done because I just don't, there's not enough of me to go around. So once I found April and we started saying, okay, let's rebuild this. And we didn't do it perfect right away. I lost 3 people in December. And some of those were kind of holdovers from kind of the prior world, but I'm like, okay, how can we get better with that? And I think it's the ability to kind of sit in the tension and keep walking forward. That it's like, a black belt is a white belt that never gave up. It's like, I know if we stick in this thing, we will figure it out if we don't quit. But let's try our hardest not to make it any more challenging than it has to be on ourselves.
So what was the role for April? I mean, like what was the, I don't know, what was the title? What was the job description? I mean, what was the new thing that you were hiring for that was going to get through this that hadn't been working previously?
It was my integrator. So it was an operations manager. It was this kind of a leadership level person that was going to handle the day to day. I'm still going to own marketing, being the advisor, biz dev. But when it comes to, as soon as somebody says yes to delivering a great experience and making sure we're getting paid on time for it, that is not Sten's superpower. So I need somebody else to own that, to give me the peace of mind to keep doing what I need to do. And we're accomplishing that. Now the season I'm going into is like, hey, we have a system. We have a great office in Franklin, Tennessee, really popular city. Like it is ours for the taking. Now I just need people that can go help me find clients and deliver our product, which is advice, AUM, insurance at times. And so now it's, if I get a bunch of people applying to come work with me, it's like, okay, now I got to be really careful on, do they have what it takes? There's people like, Sten, I'll move from across the country and work for you for free. Can I work with you? I'm like, that sounds great, but like you're going to go through this system that's going to put you to the test to some degree to make sure you can hang. Because I cannot afford to have high turnover in very important roles.
So I think you said earlier you had a director of operations. What's the difference between the person you had and hiring an operations manager now?
So the first person I had, she was my first hire ever, my administrative assistant, and then she worked her way up, and it's so rewarding to run a company and watch people reach levels of professionalism that they've never thought they were capable of.
Yep.
And I still talk to her, and she still says, like, I've done things that I never thought possible because I got to work with you. But I still remember the meeting when she was like, Sten, I don't think I'm the right person. And this person I knew since I was like 18. She was like a family friend, and we worked for 10 years together. Like, she had my back, I had hers, but the realization by both of us that, like, for us to move forward, you can't sit in that seat anymore. And for her to be even able to admit, like, I can't take us where you're wanting us to go. I've tried. I don't want this to be challenging for you anymore. And us just agreeing together, like, I think you're right. And so it was one of those things where I think people at times can elevate themselves to a level, and within some companies they can stay there satisfied. She said, I don't think I can stay here and have somebody above me in a role that I wanted to be in. And I said, that's great awareness. And so we had to go through that, and it was emotional and challenging. I'm thankful she was mature enough and we could sit there and have that hard conversation together. And she wasn't defending and I wasn't blaming her, but it was just like this joint realization that was needed. That was the only super healthy transition in conversation. All the other ones didn't go great. It was Sten's fault, but like that one, I was like, I'm so thankful she was able to do that. And I think that's true for all business. You will have people, like, as a leader, give people a chance to level up if they want it. Don't put a ceiling there and hold them down. And sometimes that means they level up outside of your business. Sometimes that means they level up to the C-suite, and it's like, this is great. And I think there's stars in the waiting if they can be cultivated and the fan can, fan that flame. But I think those are rare. I think you have to be more aware of, are people hitting their limits, and does a change need to be made?
I'm struck by that evolution, that it was the first administrative assistant who came with you and grew with the business as the business grew for like a decade, to then have the business grow to the point that she can't actually do what needs to be done at that level of complexity.
Yeah. And the tricky thing was that she had the desire to do it. So it wasn't like she was just upset and frustrated. Like she cared about the business and the team and our clients. She really wanted to. But I think we all have limitations. Like there's a role out there that you would get in and want, and you'd realize, nope, I'm good. Like I thought I wanted it, but this is not what I thought it was. I don't have the skill set that this role needs. And as a leader, we have to admit that to ourselves at times. If you own the business, you're not really going to fire yourself, but there's probably some internal roles you should fire yourself from. Like you in charge of marketing, but you suck at it. Whatever it is, I think the more aware you can be. And I think the most successful people I've ever met just have this heightened sense of awareness. They're aware of themselves. They're aware of people around them. And that requires like a humility and a curiosity.
So how, I'm just curious, like the actual evolution of this conversation with your prior director of operations, like how long did it take to come to this mutual realization that this wasn't working?
Probably 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, and part of that for me is me learning my story. Like, why does Sten do the things he does? And part of that is I take care of people. Like, I grew up single mom, 3 sisters. Like, I take care of people. And while that is great in so many ways, there's downsides to that. And I think as a leader of a company, if you lead a company trying to take care of everybody, you're going to hit obstacles. It'll work for a while, and people will like it, and you'll have fun at work. But when it comes to performance and results, you're going to eventually probably delay some hard conversations if you operate too much out of that. So I had to go through a season of kind of saying, okay, Sten, why does it feel like you're repeating things? Why does it seem like there's a theme of people coming on your company that are nice people, but when you eventually hold them accountable, they get uncomfortable and they can't handle the heat? Like what's at the root of that? And so as I'm kind of learning more about myself and why I make the decisions I make or the habits I have, I'm gaining a sense of awareness of, okay, what things are breaking in the company and who is ultimately responsible for those things. And there was a theme that it was like, okay, that really falls under the director of operations role. I'm the business owner, so ultimately it's on me, but I have to start having some more direct conversations of, hey, why is this happening? Okay, you're actually the one in charge of hiring these people, but it's not working out. Are you letting the wrong people in? So as opposed to leading with like anger or emotion, trying to lean with curiosity and saying, okay, let's talk about what's breaking. Like, why is that breaking? And then when there was a theme of, it seems like the decisions you're making on your own are not working out well consistently, let's readdress your job description and the level of responsibility. And if together what we're looking at is a whiteboard full of decisions that are not yielding results, it's a lot of activity. You're showing up to work, you're passionate, you care about everybody. Like, that's not in question, but it's, for some reason in this role, we're not having success with the things you're in charge of. And I think that's where, as a leader, if you can lead with data and curiosity and questions, you have a better chance of leading somebody to a mutual understanding, as opposed to a posture of defensiveness or, hey, are you saying I don't care about the company? I've worked here for 10 years. What are you telling me? Like, I think it can derail fast if emotions guide you, as opposed to, hey, explain this to me. Hey, if you owned a company and this happened, how do you think you'd feel about that? And so I think it was a long process. It'll never take me 2 years again, but I think just based on my personal growth, that one had to take a while to end well.
So now help us understand that. So the first move was, okay, if a lot of these things are ultimately tracking back to operations related things that I, Sten, am not good at, that's not my gift. I'm good at driving the business growth. I need someone to solve that. So you went and found April. So what happens next?
It's me trusting her to a degree to kind of audit our system and company. When you get fresh eyes, you're just going to get some good perspective. Things are going to be revealed. And so I think we had some low hanging fruit of her saying, hey, I've been in the industry for 19 years. Like, why are you doing it this way? We should probably change the system. Hey, you have 6 tools. We really only need 1 to do that. And so we kind of had some immediate improvement of efficiency within the practice. It's having some additional capacity also for her to say, okay, I'm going to start interviewing a bunch of people. You don't have to sit with all of them, but I'm going to go through 50 to 60 people and I'm going to bring you 3. That's also just a pure capacity issue increase to where it's like, okay, good. Now we can do things in a better way than we were before, just because somebody has time and expertise in doing that. So it think of it as like a season of cleaning up and kind of righting the ship. Hey, are we even getting paid for the things we're doing? It was made me sick to my stomach, and good for some of our clients, I guess, that I would look back and I'm like, wait, we haven't been billed on that $3 million account for how long? 6 months? Like, ouch, that's not good. And so I had to have some confidence instilled in me of like, is this thing running smoothly? Clients were still happy. Our retention was 99.5%. This is me, with everybody listening, talking kind of business owner to business owner here of like, man, this stuff behind the scenes we were at war. Like this was a battle every day to keep the appearance outside of like, hey, things are fine. Clients felt some turnover and had some questions. Oh, I missed that person like that. But internally it was like, man, I'm white knuckling. We got to get through this thing. And as we cleaned it up and it felt like, okay, the ship is good. The holes are patched. Now we have to evaluate our hiring process. We have to evaluate, hey, what does our handbook look like when people start here? Because from this day forward, when people start here, I don't want confusion. At the end of the day, it's up to everyone that's hired. We're all professional adults to make things happen. But I will own part of the responsibility of a clean onboarding process, of a really clean job description, communicating the process of, hey, every 2 weeks we're having a meeting looking at your KPIs. Like, I'm not a systems person, but from learning the hard way, I'm like, I think as a business owner, I owe that to anybody that works here to have some frameworks to operate within.
So I want to come back in a moment to like how the hiring process began to change and what you were doing. But I actually want to go back for a moment. How did you find April? Like where did you find this magical person that could come in and audit everything and start telling you need to fix this and you need to adjust that?
Oh yeah, I finally went down the high end recruiter path.
Okay.
And sometimes that fee makes you sick. You're like, wait, what? I have to pay you what percentage of what? But the book Who Not How, I just got to a place where I was like, I can't. I bet I could try to figure this out by using my natural market or asking around or doing some job posts, but the business deserves to find somebody really good as quick as possible. So April was kind of the first really successful hire from a recruiting firm.
And with the whole, like, you pay them whatever 20 or 30% of first year compensation, kind of things, like this cost you tens of thousands of dollars to get the hire.
Yeah, what I learned the hard way using recruiters is that I need to know, do I pay them 100% of that fee the day that person starts? Do they have a 90-day period where at the end of 90 days I pay them the rest of the fee? What happens after 90 days if they don't work out? Is there maybe like 120-day where they'll replace that person? So I learned the hard way of, if you use a recruiting firm, get really clear on, I will not know what this person is truly like until I engage with them and work with them. If I'm going to pay a fee that large, what protections do I have in place? And the first couple of times I used recruiting firms for some different roles, I didn't know what questions to ask. And we placed somebody 15 days in, we paid the fee, and that was it. Like, they're totally off the hook at that point. And I'm like, okay, that hurts, because 15 days in, people are still getting their computer set up, and like, I haven't really experienced them yet.
I don't have any sense of whether, I mean, a really catastrophically bad fit, in 15 days, but
That's right.
Really understanding if someone's a good fit and going to jive, it takes longer than that.
So I think with finding, there was just a learning curve there, and luckily I reached out. I got counsel from other people to say, how do I do this well? It puts you in a posture. It's one of those things where you're forced to a place of, I thought I knew what I was doing, but I don't, and I'm more receptive than ever to feedback and help. And I guess the hope for all of us is we don't have to be hit so hard and knocked down before we're receptive. That's been my story a few times in my life, but finding in April and holding a new high bar and then saying, okay, we have to hire better. What's our process going to be like? And then reinventing the team in a way that's like, this is going to probably be slower. The goal is not to fill a seat with a person as quick as possible, because I found at times I've had operations people where they just love completing tasks. And so if I'm like, hey, we need to hire these 2 people, their goal was to hire them as quick as possible, instead of, no, we have to hire the right person at all costs, no matter how long it takes. And I didn't set that expectation, because there was probably some assumptions there of like, of course they're going to hire somebody great. Well, I need to put a framework and an expectation of what that person really needs to look like.
So was the April hire the first time you had used a recruiter?
Successfully. I think I engaged some other recruiters and maybe the person started. I think I did it for a marketing person once, but the person just didn't show up to work 2 weeks later. And so, the fee was refunded. But for April, it was like the first full good experience of like, okay, there's good people out there. But the challenge is a lot of times the person you want is working somewhere else and they're probably kind of happy where they are. Ideally, trying to find somebody that's disgruntled with their past job that hasn't been employed for 3 months and they can start tomorrow, like that's maybe not the person you want. And so it's like, how are you going to get those people's attention? Is it a recruiter? Is it, hey, I'm going to be really creative with my natural market and hey, who do you know that's working somewhere? And then I'm going to woo them away somehow. Like at a certain tier of team member that is that capable, they're probably being capable somewhere else right now and probably being compensated fairly for it. And so is it a salary increase? Is it, hey, I'm just going to sell you on my mission to get you over? And so I'm in a season 2025 for me is like, I'm going to try to solve this talent issue. Maybe a recruiter's involved, and there's probably some better onboarding and expectation setting. But if I'm going to grow future businesses and legacy is going to go from 3 to 6 to 12, I think we almost have to build a superpower of like we hire and keep great people. Like I think that's going to be the secret sauce for the next season. But it's not a skill set I have yet.
So then my one other question in this transition. If you're losing team, kind of like initially leading up to the hire of April, you were at 8, you went down to 4. Is the team drowning with how much client workload there is? Because you had 8 people to service the clients and now you have 4, or was there some natural right sizing effect because some of the people who left were advisors whose clients went with them, so at least when they leave, you don't need as much team to service what's left?
There was some of that, but there was this risk. I remember I lost an admin person because she was just overwhelmed. And she said, at this workload, I could handle it, but at this workload, I can't. And she quit. And so there was definitely the feeling of the people that are left are going to have to step up temporarily. And part of that is communication. It's me going to them and saying, this is hard. We don't need to pretend like those people didn't work here and not be upset or sad that they left. Like that's true. And let's sit in that. But so it is my priority to get great people in here to help us as quick as possible to try to relieve some of any of the fear that was created with like, hey, the company feels totally different now than it did. I mean, there were days where I was like, I might wake up and go to work and I'll be by myself. Like it was because this shift was happening. And I'm like, who wants to stay here and make this happen with me? Because it's going to have to be a different kind of person than the people that were leaving. And so we were able to get through that kind of scary time to where it's like, okay, now we're going to start backfilling these roles with higher quality people that want to work hard, that want to solve problems. And where I became conditioned to worry about people and, hey, are they overworked? Maybe I need to go check on them. I became the type of leader that was trying to caretake people that were not really healthy employees. But if you can find healthy team members and set great expectations, it requires a lot less emotional effort for me to manage and lead those people. And so now I'm realizing, man, the power of getting good people has an exponential effect on your business from a culture standpoint, from a revenue standpoint, from freeing Sten up personally to do things with his kids standpoint. Like I almost can't under communicate or emphasize the cost of having the wrong person on your team and keeping them too long versus the time and energy and expense of getting the right person on your team at all costs. So if that means I have to pay 20% over market, that's a deal compared to hiring the wrong person, losing them and trying to rehire somebody else. That it's such a good investment. It's not a cost. It's an investment because the people are what will allow you to have balance in your life as a financial advisor and not have to be doing service on your phone at home. So the people are so important.
So what changed in the hiring process as you / April rebuilt this and you came back to reconstitute the team? Like how did this work? How did this play out? What was new and different in hiring that would make this better than it was before?
I think practically it came down to like even the job description when we post a job, it seems like a fun place to work. The language we use is not, hey, here's the job, here's the 10 things you're going to do. It's if you want to join a fun team that's trying to shake stuff up, it's from the language to the formatting of it, it's like, let's reimagine this thing in a way that the right person will catch their attention. And so then we would start boosting job postings and spending some money on that. I think for a period of time, we kind of relied on like who applied first, and let's interview 1 or 2 people. Let's at least interview 6 people for every role. Even if the first person comes in and gives us some good feelings, let's put some rules in place to protect ourselves. And so we have things like that where we have to interview at least this many people before we make a decision.
And is 6 actually the number that you set?
I think the number, it's kind of varies by role. I think for like an administrative assistant, I think it's at like 4. For an advisor, junior advisor, I think it's 6. Which sometimes is tough. Like, man, we did 5 and these 2 feel pretty good. But it's almost this system is going to hold us accountable and stop us from maybe slipping into old habits. We also have to where part of our interview process, there's a tool where you can send them a question. They get a minute to read the question. They get a minute to answer via video the question. And so from maybe an initial phone call to kind of verify the resume and get initial feedback, we say, hey, great, we're going to send you an email. I think the website's called JobVite. And you say, here's 5 questions. You have a minute to answer each. So now we get to see them kind of answer a question on the fly because they get a short period of time to answer it.
Oh, so the whole thing, like they know it's timed. Like they know, whatever, be at your computer at 4 p.m. or whatever. Because like we're going to send you the JobVite email. It's going to give you questions. It knows exactly when you opened the email to click on the link to start the process to see the first question. And it's just going to tell you like, okay, you got a minute to read it. Now you have a minute, record a video answering the question, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Yep. Because I've heard of some companies that have like a 12-step hiring process. I'm like, oh gosh, like that's because they have so many tiers of managers they meet with. I'm like, I don't have that many people they need to meet with at this point, but it probably shouldn't be 2 meetings. It doesn't need to be 12 meetings, but there's probably this happy medium that's healthy. And so it's like initial, get your resume, quick Zoom call, verify, hey, we're going to send you this link. If that goes well, we're then going to give you some type of assignment. We're going to pay you as a contractor to complete a task for us to some degree. So for a junior advisor, I may say, hey, here's a case study. Build me a general plan. I want you to present it to me. For EAN, if it's a coach, I'm going to say, hey, I want you to come use our conference room and I want you to teach me something. Coach me for 20 minutes. And I'm not asking them to do that stuff for free. I'm going to pay them to do it, but I need to experience you in some capacity. It could be an administrative task for a new hire on the administrative side. Hey, I need you to go and learn how to use Trello to do project management. And I want you to come teach it to me. Like, show me that you can solve a problem. Ask me questions to come up with a solution. I have to put some kind of pressure on you. Perfection's not the goal. You may not do great with the presentation because I didn't give you everything you needed, but I get to see how you approach it. I get to see how you get to the end result. And then if that goes well, then there's, the final interview is, hey, here's the expectation of the role more clearly. Here's kind of exactly what the compensation would be. And by building this kind of 5-step process, I think it's going to limit and save us from ourselves of, hey, this person seems nice. Let's give them a try.
Wait, so can you walk me through again? So what's the actual 5-step process? Like, what are the steps?
So I guess step 0 is put the job posting out in a creative way, boost it on LinkedIn, use different job things. There's some level of your funnel is let's get a bunch of people to apply. Have some internal filters of, hey, these people need to be willing to live in Nashville. So maybe that cuts, 50 resumes down to 20 resumes. And then from there, April just gets on Zoom and says, hey, how you doing? How'd you hear about our role? What do you like about it? And she's doing this kind of initial scrub to say, are there any kind of knockout things here that doesn't make sense for us to even go to step 2 of the process?
So how long so that's like a screening style Zoom call from April?
15 minutes.
Okay.
I think she's come up with kind of like 4 key questions to say,
okay,
what of these things are true, any kind of knockout scenario.
Okay.
Then we do the JobVite.
Okay.
Scales, we get to see them on video with kind of put on the spot. How are they answering a question on the fly?
So what kinds of questions in the JobVite? Like, I'm just trying to visualize what kinds of things you're like giving them to stump them and see how they do.
Yeah, there's I went down a huge kind of rabbit trail of like the best interview questions out there and how do you get creative with them. And I think there's the standard ones that probably still stand the test of time. But one I heard that we're going to try to use is what movie star or character do you most relate with? And part of it is that's just a surprising question. Like, wait, what? Like, I don't. And so it's a question they're not anticipating to kind of say, well, how are they going to respond to this on the fly? And then some others are, what was the most challenging thing you've overcome in your life?
Okay.
And so questions kind of along that, probably 4 to 5, as we kind of, depending on the role, might be more direct of, how do you handle conflict at the workplace? What
Okay.
motivates you the most? Things like that.
Okay. So then what next?
Then the folks that kind of make it through round is our first in-person interview.
Okay.
And sometimes we've flown people here for that interview. And the goal of that is, I want to sit across the table from you and we're going to describe the role in more detail. And then from there, we're going to come up with an assignment or a task. And then we're going to say, hey, we're going to pay you to do this. Do you feel like this is a fair fee? You have 2 weeks to prepare this, ask us for any information you need. That could be anything from, I want you to, here's a scenario for a pair planner. I want you to build this plan out. Let me know what questions you have, what gaps are in the scenario. And I have some of those scenarios that we teach on. Hey, here's a couple that both are W-2 employees, and here's the facts. Here's a business owner, and here's the facts. I want to see what kind of problem solving, what kind of questions you'll ask, and what kind of tenacity are you going to show to do this really well? Are you just doing it to check a box, or are you really bringing it? We've had people present things on the whiteboard to us and coach us on something like a prompt. I've said, hey, in 2 weeks, I want you to come back here and sell me on why coaching is necessary. If you're going to be a coach, like, I need you to believe in coaching so much that you can convince me that you believe in coaching. And so how practical can I get in seeing them deliver something?
So does everyone who gets the first in-person interview get the work assignment as well?
That's the goal. We had somebody recently that was a marketing hire that was really good in Go High Level, which is a tool. And so hers was less of like a short-term assignment. It was a 3-month contract to help us build out something specific in Go High Level.
Okay.
And then we got to say, okay, you were responsive. You got this thing done on time. And so there's some people, I can't remember if it was Mark Cuban or somebody I was listening to, kind of a business podcast. It was like, I never hire anybody until they work for me as a contract person for a period of time. Like, it's a rule. Like, I'm not just going to hire somebody and hope it works out. Like, they have to show me they can deliver and they can kind of hang with us. I don't know if that's fully applicable in every role in our business.
Yeah, like I get it in some contexts, but I'm like, look, if there's a good prospective advisor hire the firm and I say you have to work for us as a contractor for a couple of months, like, they're just probably going to get another advisor job.
Exactly. Yeah. And part of it too is if they want to be there, if your firm is the right place for them to be, I bet they'll jump over some hurdles. Like, I think you can apply some resistance and see if they overcome it. But yeah, to take this too far, there's a point of diminishing return probably of like, hey, you're being a little cute with your hiring process. Like,
So then I'm presuming, so your next step is basically like the delivery of the work assignment itself, and you get to see what they did, how they did when they come back 2 weeks later.
Yep.
And what do you? I'm going to assume it varies a little bit by the role and the task, but what do you pay when you pay them to do these work assignments?
There's been a couple where it was kind of $1,000. I think there's times I'm overpaying. I'm probably paying them $100 an hour for it. But I'm like, if anything, I want them to be like, this was really fair. Like, Sten never asked me to do stuff for free for him. If at all possible, it's something we need help on anyways. Hey, if you'd go research this thing and come back to us with 3 solutions to this problem, that could be a great one for an advisor. So it's like, can I apply some pressure here? Can I see how this person responds? Is there energy more of like an annoyance of the process, or is it like a, hey, game on? Like, I like to solve problems and I want to be here. And so that's the hope with some of these key roles, is that we just refine the process of finding the right person.
So is there a final step after the work assignment like comes back and they deliver it to you?
Yeah, that's then kind of obviously we're, hey, thankful you spent the time on that, encourage them in a way, what questions you have for us. And then it's a team debrief to where we say, okay, let's not let our emotions jump in, whether it went really well or really bad. What does the team think here? So typically at this point, that's a me and April decision to say, are we going to send them a job offer?
Okay. So screening, interview, job vite, in-person interview, work assignment delivery, and then like an internal debrief. Okay, who are we going to take? And you try to put, sounds like at least 4 to 6 people that get to the interview and work assignment phase, varying a little by role as to exactly how many.
Yeah. I think at this point in the last 2 cases, it's been more of like 3 people made it to the assignment. I'm as I talk to April, I'm like, the more the better. Like the more reps we can get, like if we can. But if what it's going to do is take us 3 more months to get 3 more people to make it that far, is there a stud kind of in the 3 we have? Let's be open minded to that. So I think we give ourselves a little bit of leeway on that, but we have to keep each other accountable. And I told her that this year. We're like, no matter how bad we need help and want to hire people because we see this potential sitting out in front of us, or our lives would be a little bit easier. Let's hold each other back on jumping the gun if at all possible.
Okay.
There's nuance to every situation. So I don't think anything we've said so far is, this is the only way to do it and this is always true. But I do believe it's true that as you grow a business, if you are not having turnover, if you're 20 years in and your whole team is the same, and I think the way you put it, and you probably say it better, is either you did something beyond defying all odds, that you hired perfectly from day one, or you're avoiding some hard conversations.
Yep. Yeah, I very much so. I mean, I like having been through the growth cycle multiple times. I mean, this depends a little bit on how far you want to grow the business, right? There's no right or wrong answers. We all get to define our own paths of success of how far we want to grow it and how big we want to make it and what we want it to look like. But there are realities of when the complexity and needs of a business change. A 2 to 6 person team that's built around the founder is different than a team that's supporting multiple advisors, where you need to have some actual shared resources while also allowing some autonomy to advisors to do their own thing, which is different than by the time you get to a 20 plus person team and you tend to have much more formalized department structures and leaders of departments and an actual management team that does management team things and has autonomy over their departments, but is accountable to company goals. And so I find there are sort of these thresholds where a company up to 6 or 7 team has different needs than a company that's growing from 8 to like 20 plus as sort of departments and structure forms, which is different than who's good in a company that's like 20 to 50 people. And then there are different things that change when you get to 50 plus people, because you end up with another layer of management and depth of teams, because you can only have so many direct reports in each layer. And so the skill sets that are good at one are different than at the next, right? In the up to 5 or 6, I just need people who are really good at doing the things I delegate to them. As I'm growing from 6 to 8 up to 20, like I need people that start operating more autonomously, because I can solve the problems for a couple of people. I cannot solve the problems for 15. Like you all have to start figuring out things on your own with some leaders besides me. But the leaders only have so many people reporting to them. So you end up with a lot of, call it like player coach style roles. When you start getting 20 plus and 30 and 40, like departments start getting big, suddenly you need managers whose literal full-time job is to manage. They don't do anything. The whole proverbial management doesn't actually do anything around here. Like it becomes true after a while, because there's so many people doing the things that one manager who effectively levels up 6 to 8 people on their team has so much more impact than what any superstar manager could ever personally do themselves. You get to a size where your ability to impact the business through people is exponentially larger than what you could ever do by being a great player coach that also gets in the trenches with the team in the same way. And so, right, great delegees aren't necessarily great semi-autonomous player coaches. Great player coaches are often not great full-time managers, because they want to keep getting in there and playing while they coach. And so they limit themselves. And even great manager dynamics are different when you're a manager of a team who does things, versus when you're a 100 plus person company and you need like VPs who manage people who manage people who actually do things. Like you start getting people that are 2 or 3 layers removed, and that's a different kind of manager and leadership skill set. And there's there's other thresholds that crop up when you're larger, but very few advisory firms get larger. So I do find, right, it's again, it's a version of that, what got you here won't get you there, or like who got you here won't necessarily get you there, because right, like an amazing right-hand delegee may be a terrible player coach because they're so good at doing things. They themselves don't know how to delegate anything to their team and coach them. And great player coaches often are not great managers of large teams because they keep trying to get in there and do things, and they don't want to, quote, just be a manager that leverages their team without getting in there. So there really is a like who got you here won't get you there thing that starts to crop up.
Yeah. And I think for everyone listening, no matter what your practice looks like, if you're a leader at a firm, if you are a sole advisor with one assistant, I think what I find to be true is that there's future versions of your business and yourself that you will not achieve without other people. That could be kind of a who not how thing where you just kind of outsource some stuff. But we spend a lot of time at the Lead Advisor Network for the advisors we coach saying, who is your next hire? Because most advisors' issues come down to like capacity. Like, I don't have time to do the thing I know I should do. And as we talked about early on in the podcast, there's some efficiencies you can find, but every advisor needs to say, I need to always know one or two hires ahead. And if I'm not spending weekly time thinking about my organization and my talent development, you are going to run into an obstacle someday and you'll be playing from behind. And so we teach our advisors, who's your next hire? What's that job description look like? Do you need it in 6 months? Because by the time you realize you need it 6 months before. And I think that's something in the business that, kind of the order of operation to me feels a little wrong when you get in the business. And it's like, hey, just learn to sell really well. And then learn more about the thing you're selling next. And then eventually when you sell enough of that stuff, you should probably learn how to run a business and hire people. And it's like, okay, I think there's a better way to learn multiple things at once, because it'd be great in business if you just got to focus on one thing. But if you do that, the other stuff starts to light on fire. And every business owner has to be able to have this sense of awareness. You're up in the press box looking down at the football field, because if you're trying to just be the quarterback and you're not looking at everything else, that will only work for so long.
So now take us through how this starts playing out and changing as April comes on board, this hiring process gets rebuilt, and you start hiring. I mean, I'm just trying to think of where you are in the process. Like you've gotten knocked back to 4 team members, and now you've got a new hiring process. So are you trying to rebuild the 4 back to 8? Is there other stuff going on? Like where's the actual evolution of like hiring and management of the business at this point?
Yeah, so we're looking to add 2 junior advisors to kind of support, learn from me, build their business. Like I enjoy helping people level up faster. Building our support team, we probably need one more support person to kind of level out the workload there. And then I'm looking for a full-time content person. In the future, building legacy organically with Sten kind of doing like brute force marketing worked in his natural market and his referrals. But the future of legacy for multiple advisors to have a flow of business is we need to create like a content machine. Like we need Sten to be out there speaking, writing on a whiteboard, conveying ideas, getting people's attention, and then we need somebody managing that flywheel of new business. But part of it is like chicken egg. It's like I can't turn on that faucet yet until I know that the machine can handle what I'm about to do to it. And so 25 is probably us building up a rock star team, getting people settled, and then positioning for 26 to say, all right, game on. We know who our ideal client is. We know where they are. We've created content for them. Maybe it's a book, maybe it's a podcast. Like, how are we going to get their attention? And let's now go pull them in. So that's the business plan as of now.
So as a growthy oriented advisor and business owner, does it hurt when you say out loud, like, we're going to push all the growth to next year?
Oh, so painful. But I know it's more painful to start doing it now, and I won't be able to deliver to clients. I mean, there's some financial planning clients now where I'm like, I said yes to them when the team was this, and I'm engaged with them, and I gotta show up on Saturday for 2 hours. I'm doing stuff I haven't done for a long time just to honor the people that we've committed to, and I'll see that through. These are the things. My dad grew up, owned an excavating company in Oregon, and he was like, there were times I was taking jobs just so I could pay my people, and we were losing money. And I think every business may have a cycle where it's like, all right, the people that are here, like, let's strap our boots on and just get to work. And so I'm kind of embracing that season as like, man, I'm learning a lot. And this is almost a necessary transition hockey stick moment for us to say, we got to do this to prepare us for what's coming next. And whether it's my life story or what I've been through, I'm not under the illusion that it should always just get easier. Like if you're doing something right, that means your life just gets smoother. It's like, it might for a little bit until, if you're looking for it, there's a new peak. There's a new mountain you can maybe cross. And if you decide to go that way, get ready for what comes next. And fortunately, as opposed to when I was young, I kind of ran from discomfort because discomfort meant you were doing something wrong. I've been trained over time to say, that's maybe a sign I'm doing something right. If I go to the gym and my muscles hurt, it's like, hey, that's probably a good thing. And so embracing discomfort, looking for challenges, hopefully in a healthy way, and hopefully to a point where you can tolerate it and those around you can tolerate it, but at least leaning into it as opposed to avoiding it.
So what else has happened and shifted just as you've gone through this transition, I guess, kind of rebuilding phase?
I think there's an acceptance of a different level of growth than I used to experience in my businesses. Meaning some things can't happen overnight, and my future self will thank me for letting some stuff mature before I push it too hard again. And part of that, especially for my 3 kids, is they get to benefit from that mindset, because me just doing more because it rewards me in the short term or gets me attention. A huge part of me knows, like, Sten, that's not going to get you the outcome you want, and you're going to probably have some regrets. I do not think that means I have to lose my edge or my fire, but there's this way of somewhat being present now, letting things mature and settle. But I am somewhat of a horse behind the gate too. That it's like, man, when it's game time and you pull that lock off, like we're going. And if I can be patient enough, when we go, it's going to stick and it'll be healthy, and the people around me will be ready for it. And I won't do what I did in the past unintentionally, where it was like, hey, I'm going to run this thing and we're going to go. And there's somewhat some collateral damage behind me and around me, not intentionally. The people signed up for it, but my lack of experience and maybe wisdom at the time caused me to be surprised when stuff started falling off the rocket ship because we were going too fast and too high.
So in practice, I mean, when you say accepting a different level of growth now, what does that mean? Is that like we used to grow X percent and now we're going to grow Y%?
Yeah, I think just based on some other things I'm doing, I could probably show up for work and serve people well and be in the community and add 15 to 20 million of AUM pretty easily. I could probably do 250 to 350,000 of consulting fees, just because the same people come back to us for advice and organically we have a good flow. So there's some reasonable level of growth that maybe in our industry people would say, like, yeah, that's great. Like, why don't you stop there? My business mind cannot help but recognize the opportunity that exists if you can scale the model. And if what you're doing at this scale works so well, and you can build it in a healthy way with the right people, 2x is easy. 10x is totally within reach. And so it's now me having to open my mind to kind of bigger possibilities. But the book 10x is easier than 2x. It's like you can't think about it the same way you used to. If I think about legacy growing because of Sten's natural market or his prospecting efforts, like, yeah, it might 2x, but 10x is like, man, I need some studs in here, and we got to create a podcast, and I maybe have to write another book that has a course that goes with it. Like, but that takes time to build out. Your iceberg, illustration you use all the time. It's like someday people are gonna be like, man, look at Sten, look at your practice. And it was like, if you only knew the framework that was laid and the pain that occurred so the hockey stick could happen. And I think that's what we're in now.
So then where does the business actually sit at this point? Like, just the snapshot of today. I don't know if you measure by like team, clients, assets, revenue, like, just help us understand where it sits now.
Yeah. For 24, I think we'll end up at maybe 2.8, 2.9 of revenue.
Okay.
The team, we're at 5 people now, rebuilding, shooting for probably 8 to 9 as a fully built out healthy team if we can fill all those seats we want. Financial planning, probably 25 active clients, probably doing 350,000 of revenue on some of those, from business consulting to traditional financial planning. So by many metrics, we're in a healthy place. We have good cash flow. I think the pressure I feel is just the business problems we're trying to solve day to day. Our clients are great. They love us. I do surge. So, March is going to be busy for me, and the team gets excited and ready for that. And so by many standards, the gap and the gain, it's like, I want to focus on the gain. Like, we are doing good things, but there's still this part of me. It's like, once you see something, you can't unsee it. And with some of the people I get to hang out with EAN and advisors in the industry, or personalities and business owners I interview on the podcast, I'm like, oh wait, there's this different level of business where leaders lead leaders, and it doesn't have to be as challenging as it's been if you do it well.
And what is it, just in terms of client count or asset base?
We're at 90 households to 220 of AUM.
Okay. So again, I guess that's an interesting.
But we lost 100 or so of AUM as I kind of trimmed advisors, and one of the paraplanners probably had 20 million or so of people that he had kind of serviced well, and I was like, I could probably keep them, but they know him, so I'm going to let him buy those out from the practice. And so yeah, it's tough when you measure yourself as an AUM number for so long. Like, that was the measure of success, and then you cut it by a third. You're like, okay, but now we're actually pretty lean, and the smaller team can handle this pretty easily. But now we need to position to 2x this in 2 to 3 years.
And so, what are the seats on the bus for the 5 team members you've got, and what are you trying to fill out to be at the place you want it to be to service and grow if you're not there, if you're not feeling it's there yet?
So we have an operations manager, a portfolio manager, a relationship manager, Sten, and a marketing person, kind of a content flow person.
Okay.
So
so then what are you hoping to add?
We need at least one more relationship manager, at least just to kind of make our service team not overwhelmed at times.
So relationship manager for you is is that an ops admin oriented role, or is that like an associate advisor kind of role?
No, they're service related, paperwork related role.
Okay.
And then I'm looking for 2 advisors to some degree. I know a lot of advisors with the podcast and the people I coach, and so many of them are like, I'm doing good in this other state. I've yet to find a 4 or 5 year stud advisor that's in Nashville. It's like, hey, I want to leave the big firm and I want to come hang out with you, because I know it's if I want me at 24, a little bit overconfident, wanting to work hard, knows that he wants to take his exams, but just needs a little bit of rocket fuel and some resources around him or her.
So you're not necessarily looking for advisors that have to join with a big book of business, but it sounds like you're hoping they bring some.
Maybe, but I'm not. I don't need to. I'm going to salary this person, pay him well. I'm going to teach him, because for me, I just need people to help me with the capacity of delivering the advice, gathering the information, putting it into e-money, building out the financial plan. I can be in meetings and I can get people in the room for now. I could give some people some time to grow into it. But you're not just going to hang out in that role for too long. Like, you don't just get to hang out with Sten. He's going to hand you business. Like, if that's your expectation, you'll be disappointed. But if you get to watch me do what I do, and you get to learn, which I think is, apprenticeships. And it's like, that's the best way to figure it out, if you can find somebody to watch firsthand. And then my hope is like, how do I level you up into an advisor in, a year or 2, to where you have some of your own clients? And, that path that I got to follow early in the business, it was challenging. I didn't have a lot of support. But I was like, give me a little bit of support and some direction, and turn me loose, and I'll make you proud, and I'll make you money. So if an advisor came tomorrow and said, hey, I'm moving to Nashville, I love what you've built, I got 100 million, can I come hang out? If it was a culture fit, I'd be like, game on. You're not going to come here just so I can take 15 bips off the top of your book and make some extra money. Like, I've done that before, and it was a cultural disaster. It was like, I need people that are bought into like the company and what we're trying to accomplish, not just looking for a nice office space. So in the near term, it's kind of 2 advisors, even if they're junior, younger advisors that can step in, get their CFP, and just get to work.
So as you reflect back on this over this journey, evolution, getting through the new ceiling phase of the past 4 years, what surprised you the most about this stage of the growth path?
I think my understanding of people and myself, I think there is a healthy way to connect and communicate with people. There's a way to say hard things and not put somebody on the defense. And so I think what was revealed to me is to lead well, there has to be an awareness. And, that put me down the path of therapy, which is great. Being willing to say, hey, I think maybe I do have some blind spots and how can I work on those? I'm not trying to become a different person, but if I can be aware of what the things I'm doing and maybe why I do them and how people receive them, that probably leads to a healthier work environment. And I think it's also just the point of acceptance of, I wish I could have done some things differently. I can't go back in time. I'm in a posture of learning and willing to get better. And so I'm going to be easy on myself to some degree, but I'm also going to hold myself to a high standard. So I think learning about people is challenging, that people don't see the world the way I do. Some people just don't want to work that hard, but they want to get paid a lot. And so I think I've had this crash course over the last couple of years of like human nature of myself and others. And whether it's right or wrong, to me, it's just like I understand it better now. And so I can go into meetings with a little more clarity and curiosity. And so I think as a young advisor, I was so in my world of I just have to grow and make enough money to survive. Picking my head up and learning about myself and people and how to lead almost felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. But it eventually found me, because I did grow to a point where the version of me at that point was not, just like the version of my team was not going to go to the next level. Like the version of me was not going to get to the next level. So I had to go through a period of change also.
So as you reflect back, where was the low point over the past few years?
I think 2.5 years ago was, I think, a low point personally and professionally, when, my personal world kind of fell apart, and then professionally people started leaving. It was one of those things where I reflect back and I'm like, how did I get through that? Like, I took it a day at a time. And, for everybody listening, I don't know if there's a point in your life that you think of where you're like, in hindsight, I'm like, how? Like that there was so much going on and changing so quickly. My faith is a big part of that, but also I started cold plunging, which might help, and sauna, like self-care. And so yeah, probably 2.5 years ago is when it's like, hey, this thing's shifting. I'm feeling it happening. And part of life too, when you get healthier, things get exposed. You see unhealthy relationships. And so I think as I reflect, it makes sense why so much stuff changed in my life, because my eyes kind of opened, and I was getting healthier, and I was learning more about business and people and life. And so I think it's one of those things where when you start changing, whether you like it or not, like stuff will change, like the ground is going to shift. And are you ready for that to happen? And it's going to be challenging, and you can't skip it. You just have to learn to like live in it.
So what else do you know now you wish you'd known like a couple of years ago? I mean, you highlighted it's been a crash course of human nature, but what were the things that just you didn't realize then that now that you wish you knew then?
There's this tool I created for myself, and I'll send it to you. We can put it in the show notes. But I found myself using it a lot, and so I was like, hey, I want to share this with other people, and I like to put titles on things. So this is called Iterate to Elite. And for me, it's trying to understand like the power of iteration, meaning your first thought or idea is probably not good. Like it's actually probably pretty bad. And if we can just accept that it's not great, but you need version 1 to get to version 2 to get to version 5. And so I'll share this with you and we can put it up, but it's a spectrum from 0 to 10 that I use this tool. And to me, it helps me sit in something like our hiring process is a result of this tool, because it's something I'm not good at naturally, or I haven't developed the skill. My first instinct is probably going to be the thing that just gets me to accomplish it or check the box. And so I almost have to just put that one aside right away. And I use this now with, podcast content. If I'm writing a book, if I'm working with a client on a strategy, I try to get through at least 3 or 4 of the first ideas and sit in the tension. Sometimes this is me in a room on a whiteboard by myself being like, I think I ran out of ideas. But there's a great book called The War of Art. And one of the key parts of it is it talks about resistance. And it's the thing that makes us all feel bad about ourselves. Like, man, I didn't get up and go to the gym in time, or I know I should do that thing, but I'm going to go home early from the office. And there were times where I was like, I can get a lot of stuff done. I'm pretty disciplined, but there was still this cloud sometimes of like, why am I not doing the things I want to do? And the book put it in the frame that like resistance is the enemy that wakes up every day with us, and its sole purpose is to stop us from doing the right thing. And the way my mind works is like that almost put a face to the enemy, to where I was like, wait, I can win that battle every day. And so if I can feel resistance happening when it's like, hey, Sten, you don't need to write that content, just go home early. Or hey, but I'm going to sit there and I'm going to use this tool and I'm going to sit there and mark lines on there to be like version 2. Okay, how can I make that better? And advisors can use this with prospecting. So I want to learn how to meet people that are in real estate. How am I going to do that? Okay, my first idea is I'm just going to ask my clients for referrals. Okay, that could work. All right, my second idea is I'm going to go to some lunch and learns with people that are in real estate. Okay, that's a little bit better. Okay, my third idea is I'm going to put together a resource with a video that teaches real estate investors about some tax ideas. Okay, now you're getting started. And so it's this process of sitting in and recognizing resistance is going to fight against me, but I'm going to overcome it in order to come up with a much better idea. And so younger version of me was let's blow and go and just try a bunch of stuff and brute force my success.
Okay.
But that affects everybody around you. And if you have a team, to them, it's going to feel like you're changing stuff all the time. And it's going to feel uncertain because not everybody wants to sit in that risk of change and trying new things. But if I have a tool where I can iterate, and by time somebody around me, whether it's the leadership team or my fuller team, they're hearing something that's kind of baked out and thought out. And so I have to use this tool to get me through that, because that's just the way my mind works, is a lot of ideas. But this tool kind of keeps me accountable to think about it, iterate it, and then bring it to people.
And so the idea is just to force yourself. You're not allowed to sit down and come up with an idea and run with it. You have to sit it and come up with the idea, and then come up with version 2, and then come up with version 3. And like, you're not allowed to do anything until you get 3, 4, 5 versions in. It's just like a forcing mechanism.
Yeah, it's a framework that's helped me kind of operate and sit in that the tension of resistance. And that Art of War, the War of Art book says you're summoning the muse, meaning if you sit there long enough, ideas will come to you. But resistance is trying to get you to get up and walk away and kind of run away from the discomfort of not knowing the next idea or a better version of it. And so I put some rules to it for myself. So the first rule is your first idea can't be higher than a 3. Which means don't be overconfident. Like you might think you have great ideas, but you have better ones hiding inside of you. The second rule is you need at least 5 versions before you get to Gitmo, which is good enough to move on. Which the goal is not perfection. You're not going to get everything to 10, but I want at least 5 versions of your first idea before you take action. The next rule is once you get to version 4, you need outside input. So don't do this in a vacuum and
Okay.
on an island by yourself. And then the final one is, but before you go live with it, you need to take a day or 2 off, and let it rest, and then come back to it.
Interesting. So,
and we'll give you
first
this.
version's
Everybody
going to be
listening.
bad. You need to do at least 5 versions before you're good enough to get there.
Mm-hmm.
After the 4th version, get someone else to give you input. I guess like that's what iterates you from 4 to 5 is now is time for outside input.
Yep.
And don't actually run with version 5 until you take a day to sleep on it.
Yep. So and we'll give you this, and those rules are on it. Anybody can download it and use it. Mine is laminated, so I can use a whiteboard marker on it as I kind of iterate. And it's just like, okay, this works for me. Like this is helping control. It doesn't feel like it stifles my creativity and drive. It feels like it just slightly contains it.
So look, for folks who are interested who want to download a copy, we'll have it in the show notes. So this is episode 427. So if you go to kitces.com/427, we'll have a link in the show notes to Sten's iterate to elite framework tool. Awesome. Thank you, Sten.
You bet. So
what other advice would you give advisory firm owners, or maybe, I guess, like closer to where you were a few years ago? I'm running a very successful, very financially profitable practice. It feels like it's going well, and I'm excited to keep growing, but
I think for me that talent needs to become a priority for your business. What I've heard from people is the fear of hiring is they don't know where to find that person. I think if the fear of hiring or growing goes down if you have a pipeline of people you've set up. You may interview somebody great and you don't hire them right away, but now they're on your roster and you know they exist. Or I think a leader or a business owner, and this was not natural to me. I didn't think this way. I was like, I'm gonna work hard until I hit a capacity limit, and I'm gonna hire somebody to relieve that. And so I was hiring more in like a reactionary mode as opposed to I'm going to be forward looking, always looking for great people. So by the time I need somebody, I've laid some groundwork for that. And so if you're a solo advisor now, that means, hey, I'm going to try to learn from whether it's Sten and EAN about hiring my first admin assistant. What's the job description look like? Or you're like, I have a bigger firm, but what I don't have is an integrator. I do not have an A+ level person that could step in here and link arms with me as the owner and make the next thing happen. Whatever the tier is, get educated now on where those people are, how to find them. So many advisors, when they come to our events and we coach them, they will not argue that they're at capacity and they know they need help. They either see it as a cost that they don't want to pay, or they're like, I just don't know where to get started. And like anything, this is kind of the iterate to elite tool. Yeah, version 1 is the I don't know what I'm doing, and this is kind of awkward. But if you spent 2 days online learning about how do you hire people, what's the process, like you will become better than most people if you give it some level of effort for a period of time. And my challenge to every advisor listening, every firm owner listening, how would you grade yourself on talent acquisition? And I think that will be a direct correlation to the next phase of your business, the health of it. You'll look back and say, that was the thing that was the precursor to whether I'm doing the next thing well. Kind of like my business. I was not good at that. I did not prioritize it. I went full speed into a wall and there was collateral damage and I'm having to rebuild. In hindsight, if I prioritized that, might not have done it perfectly. I would have been less taken off guard.
And in practice, like, where did you go to learn and figure this out? I mean, for folks who are listening, saying like, yeah, I don't grade well on talent acquisition. That's why my business is where it is right now. Like, where do you go to solve for this? Where did you go to solve for this?
Clients that had worked at some big companies what their hiring process was. Dave Ramsey is a company, Ramsey Solution, that's in Franklin, and they have like a famous like 10-step hiring process. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to go that far, but I'm going to try to take some best practices. And I knew some people that went through that process. So I think I'm going to just go into a posture of curiosity and start asking and start Googling and start listening to podcasts about hiring. Like nothing we are trying to do has not been done before. And in the world we live in now, the content is there for the taking if you're willing to go find it. And so I just had to enter the season of like, I have to learn. If almost the best use of my time right now, one, serve my clients well. But if I have 15% of my schedule available, the best use of that for the company is for me to figure out how to find and bring on the right people. And I bet that's true for most advisors listening to some degree. You need help and you need to get better at figuring out how to get the help. Even if that's the thing that gets over the head trash of you're not hiring the person you know you've needed to hire for the last year or two, just because you don't have the confidence in it.
So, as you know, this is a podcast about success. And one of the themes that always comes up, just that word success means different things to different people. It can even change for us as we go through stages of life and stages of both growth of the business. And so you continue to have what by any traditional metric is an incredibly successful advisory firm. And I believe you're still in your 30s and have a long time horizon for this. So the business is in a wonderful place. How do you define success for yourself at this point?
I think in the last season, success, launching EAN and building a community of advisors and kind of pouring into people and sharing what I've learned the hard way and that being successful. And I think that for me was a season of like, we did it. Like the feedback we're getting is this is the best event we've been to. You've changed my practice. Like I love the feedback me and the team are getting on that front. I think the next season for me is I want the companies I have to be able to run in a healthy way without being dependent on me. And so if we talk a year or two from now and I say, Michael, when I show up, they're like, oh, hey, Sten, how you doing? And they don't need me and I can be gone for 2 weeks, 4 weeks at a time. And the company thrives in my absence. I think that to me would be the next professional accomplishment is to find great leaders, develop them and trust them to thrive on their own.
Very cool.
So when you write me the playbook on that, just send it over.
We'll do. I appreciate you joining us, Sten, on the Financial Advisor Success Podcast.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Want even more ideas, tools, and resources on how to break through to the next level of success as a financial advisor? Check out the leading financial planning industry blog, Nerd's Eye View, at www.kitsis.com, where Michael covers the latest practice management trends and financial planning strategies. And by joining the members section, you can earn IMCA and CFP continuing education credits, along with exclusive member content. Get it all now at www.kitsis.com.